Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of Set Lusting Bruce, your podcast all about Bruce Springsteen, his music, and mostly his fans. I am your host, Jesse Jackson, and I've got a special one tonight. I don't know if you guys have heard, but there is a massive new film coming out this fall. No, not Deliver Me from Nowhere. Tramps Like Us. That's right. The David Barry documentary will be premiering in August in New Jersey. And I am lucky enough to have the three executive producers of the film joining me to give me all kinds of behind the scenes stuff about the film and their journey. I want to welcome Will. Hello, Will.
Hello. Hi, Jesse.
Yes. I've got Rick.
Hi,
Yes.
Jesse. Thanks for having me.
No problem. And Donna.
Hi, Jesse.
What we're going to do is we're going to talk about a little bit about why they got involved in the film, some stories behind it. I've already asked each of them to join me solo so we can do a regular Set Lusting Bruce episode where I can ask them my normal questions. But we're going to start out with, and Donna, ladies first, how did you find Bruce and what about his music spoke to you?
So I go way back. So I'm born and raised in Philadelphia, and Bruce was big in Philly before he was really big anywhere else. It was South Jersey and then Philly. And in the early 1970s, 73, I was in high school in Philadelphia, and I had a good friend, and we decided that we were going to give each other Christmas gifts that year. And I said to her, "What Christmas gift do you want?" And she said, "I want the new album by Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band, The Wild, the Innocent, and the E Street Shuffle." This was the end of 73. And I had never heard of him. And she said her sister was going to the Jersey Shore to see him, and that he was playing at the main point in Philly, but we were too young to be doing those shows. So I went to the record store and I bought her a copy, and I thought, if she likes him, I might like him too. So I bought The Wild, the Innocent, and the E Street Shuffle, and that's how I got into him. And then the Born to Run came out, and by this time, Ed Shockey at WMMR was playing him in Philly all the time. He was the vibe in Philly. All the kids were listening to him. And then Born to Run came out. He was on the cover of Time and Newsweek. And I thought, that's great for Bruce, but boy, now we got to share him with the rest of the country. Turns out we had to share him with the rest of the world, but I didn't know that at the time. And we just loved his music. We loved it because it felt real to us in Philly, as if he was writing about our lives in Philadelphia. And as I say in the film, I grew up in a middle class, a working class, blue collar family in Philadelphia. And what struck me with his lyrics is that, and I say this in the film, he looked at our lives, these East Coast working class blue collar lives of kids like us, and he said our lives are worthy of song. And at the time in the early 70s, the West Coast was the cultural center. A lot of the Beach Boys and San Francisco, and that, as the Haight Ashbury and all of that. And
Sure.
He drew our attention away from the West Coast, and was singing about things that I understood about the boardwalk and the amusement park rises bold and stark. Kids are huddled on the beach in the mist. And when I hear these lyrics, I'm like, oh my God, was he watching us?
Yeah.
It felt like he was writing about us. And that has carried through his work. Of course, he has found his audience, and he has continued to write lyrics and music that pertains to all of the phases of our lives, right? Your love, your work life, your parenthood, your family. And here we are with A Letter to You, when we're starting to look back on our lives. And so it's a remarkable body of work. But yeah, I was one of the originals who it was the Jersey Shore people and then the Philly people. And when he comes to Philly, the last time he was in Philly, he walked out on the stage and said, "My people," to
Yes.
which we roared.
I love that you brought that up because I had a guest a couple years ago talk about that when Letter to You came out. He said when he talked about the early albums were, and like Born to Run, How to Get Away, and Darkness, How to Stay, and then Ton of Love, How to Work Through Marriage, right? And with 9/11, how to mourn, and Magic, how to protest. And then Letter to You is how to mourn and how to face the twilight of our lives. So as he's grown, he's given us music each in our phase of lives. So Will, how about you? How did you find Bruce and what about his music spoke to you?
Well, I came to Bruce a little bit later than Donna. I was introduced to Bruce through Darkness on the Edge of Town. And I was at summer camp up in the Adirondacks. And there was a guy who I was friends with. Can I use a name on the show?
Sure, you can.
All right, I'll give Gary Greenstein a shout out. And I was listening to like Kiss and all kinds of heavy rock and this and that. And that's all fine, but you listen to this. And he played Darkness for me. And I was an angsty kid. And it really connected with me. From everything from like the guttural growl in the voice and the mournful cries and all that. The passion of it and what seemed to me just the incredible, vulnerable honesty of the feelings behind the music, which was something that was new to me. I grew up in a house, my folks listen primarily to country music. We do road trips and whatever, and it was all country. But Bruce was just something. He wasn't Kiss, and he wasn't The Who, and he wasn't Hank Sr. or that.
Carl Haggard.
Yeah, exactly. Or Willie or any of that. All greats, all classic. But Bruce, just from the start, I just felt like a real connection to him and the characters he spoke about. And it was just so compelling. And he was he was taking us on this trip, and I was eager to go. And so for me, that's what it was. And like Donna touched on, and you touched on, the remarkable thing about it is I discovered him when I was like 12 years old.
Yeah.
And now in a couple of days, I'll be 60. And
yeah,
things land differently. Things understand aspects of things he was trying to share that I didn't really, I was listening as a child. And then as I grew, I came to better understand even what he was trying to share from his experience. And Bruce is he's like 15, 16 years older than I am. And I felt like I had, and this is kind of corny maybe, but I felt like I had like an older cousin or an older friend who was cluing me into things about life and the world.
Yeah.
And showing me by example, there's different ways to handle different situations, and you'll get different results by doing things in different ways. And he's really my favorite artist of all time.
What part of the country did you grow up in?
I grew up in New York. I grew up in suburban. I grew up 20 minutes from New York City. I grew up in Spring Valley, New York. Go Tigers.
And yeah, the reason I asked is when you do a podcast patterns, and there is a good chance that if you grew up in the Northeast, you heard about Bruce in a summer camp. I hear that story often, either a roommate at the summer camp or a counselor or someone. There is probably 25, 30% of the people I've interviewed will have that story, they'll say. And siblings are another big player, that they're a sibling. So last but not least, Rick, how about you? Same question. How did you discover him, and what about him spoke to you?
Before I get started, in case I don't talk to you, Will, in a couple of days, happy birthday.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Thank you.
And so mine was phased. I had the benefit of having siblings that were 9, 10, and 11 years older than me. And when I was 10 years old in early 73, I honestly can't remember whether it was a friend of my brother's or a friend of my sister's, but I was over there and she had Greetings, and it was on, and I heard Lost in the Flood, and I loved that song. I didn't know anything about what it meant or anything. I'm 10 years old, but I really loved it. And so later that year, the friend calls, bring Rick over. And when I heard Greet the Wild and the Innocent, it just really blew me away. And I still, Will was, I think at first, I couldn't get that deep or anything at that point. A couple of years later, I'm 12, 13, Born to Run comes out, and now I'm a really big fan. But the real turning point for me, shortly before my 16th birthday, and I say this in the film, I took two buses. It was like a 2-hour trek one way to get to the only record store. I grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee. And so got it, brought it back, cracked the cellophane, dropped the needle. And this is going to sound extraordinarily dramatic, but my mom was widowed with 4 kids to take care of, made like $1.95 an hour being a cashier, and we didn't have anything. And I knew I wanted more out of my life somehow, but I didn't know how to get it. Fear kept me from doing it. Now I was only 16 still, but I knew I wanted more. I was already working and everything, but I dropped the needle, and 4 minutes and 1 second later, my life changed forever. And when I heard Badlands, and I say 4 minutes, it's probably like 40 minutes because I replayed that one song 10 times and kept looking at the lyrics. And I was getting to the age where I could understand more about what he was trying to say. And then I listened to the rest of the album too. And Something in the Night was about my sister. Factory was about my grandfather. And Racing in the Streets was about my brother and sister-in-law. And I sat there at the end of it when the album ended, and I just said, how the hell does this guy know me? He wrote this for me, clearly. He wrote this for me. And it was so intensely personal and so meaningful. I wasn't just a fan anymore after that. And I think it's all about the lyrics and the passion for me with Bruce. Nobody's ever been better on stage. I think that's a given. But for me, and for me personally, no one's ever been close to as good as him lyrically, as a lyricist, for me. And that's just for me personally. I know there'll be a lot of people watch the podcast that will disagree with that, and the other artists are better. I disagree. For me, he's the best there ever is, ever was, ever will be. He is
The Bret Hart of lyrics.
Everything is meaningful,
Yeah.
and it's just so incredible. Every new work, which is why I can't wait to dig into the new box. Every new work, it does teach you something, as Will said. It just makes you think more deeply. The line, we learn more from a record than we ever did in school. I went to school a long time, but I still agree with that line. It is what I have gotten from him about life has been extraordinarily meaningful to me in my life. And for 50 some odd years, he's been a very close personal friend to me. Unfortunately, I haven't had the opportunity to be one back to him, but he's always on the radio. He's always on my turntable. I went back to vinyl a while back, and it's meaningful stuff. It's more than have all kinds of friends, and all kinds of friends everywhere in all walks of life and business and personal friends I grew up with and things like that. You know what's really sad?
Yeah.
The sad thing to me is that I don't think any of them are as passionate about anything as I am about Springsteen.
Yeah. One of the things I laugh at is when one of the questions I ask when I'm doing an episode is I preface saying the number of times you've seen him perform live is not a fair barometer of how big of a fan you are. And I'll go, some people have never seen him live and are huge fans. Other people who were lucky enough to find him early that live in the right area, talking to you, Donna, may be in the hundreds, right? And so I ask, and it never fails. The person will say, I've only seen him blank. And it's not I've seen him, it's I've only, sadly. And
Yeah.
like someone will say the number 12, and I go, you know what's funny is if you tell a non-Springsteen fan that you've seen an artist 12 times, they're going to go, what, why? But in this thing of Springsteen fans, and this is one of my favorite stories. I had a guy on, and he talked about he saw Bruce during the John Landau future rock and roll time period. It wasn't at that show, but it was during that period. And he says, and Jesse, I want to go back in time because think of all the shows I missed. Like when he was doing the high schools and the colleges. And I'm like, and I like you see him in darkness. Think of all the shows I could have seen. My first show was The Rising. And so I'm thinking of all the shows I could have seen. And it doesn't matter when your first show is, in the back of your mind, wish I could have done this sooner. I wish I could have seen more shows.
That's exactly right. I didn't get to see him until December of '84 for the first time.
Yeah.
And I just wanted so badly to have seen the Darkness tour.
Yeah.
And the Born to Run, et cetera.
Yeah.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. So I'm going to stick with you, Rick. How did you find out about the film, and why did you decide to support it at the EP level?
I saw a post, and so I sent Dave a private message, and I asked him a number of questions. How is it different than Springsteen and I? Things of that nature. And
that is his infrequently asked questions. Yes.
And so what I probably asked all the same questions that most people are asking, but I had 6 or 7 questions. I wanted to gauge kind of how serious he was about it and so forth, and gauge him. And we talked, and after talking to him, I wanted to be as involved as I possibly could be. So this was the best way for me to do that. I got to help him on set a couple of times, not as much as I would have liked. I even got my daughter a job as a PA, helping him out a little bit when he was on the road and things like that. Yeah, I just wanted to be as involved as I possibly could be. And it's been a pleasure, absolute pleasure.
Will? Question.
Yeah, much the same answer. I had seen a post, and I had seen Springsteen and Me, and it has value for what it is. It wasn't the film that Dave Barry was talking about making, that he felt needed to be made, was a film I dreamed of, that I totally was on board with his vision of that. And I reached out to him, like Rick, and asked him a number of questions. And we spoke about his past, just a little bit about my background. For 30 years, I was a filmmaker. I worked in New York and in Hollywood, as half my career as a script supervisor and half doing other things. But in addition to that, I'd worked on a number of documentaries. And so when I was talking to Dave, I had certain questions in mind. And one of them was, I was very curious about Dream Out Loud and his U2 project. And I had asked him, before I wanted to fully commit, I wanted to see that. I asked him if he could send me a link to it. So he was gracious enough to do that. And I said, wow, this guy is the real deal. He is the person to make this film. And since it was a dream of mine to be able to invest myself into a passion project, about Bruce, it was just like a good fit. And Rick said, I wanted to be in. Over the years, I've learned a lot, and I wanted to a seat at the table, so to speak, and to be able to help form it. Or with all respect to Dave, it's his film. There's also things that I wanted to be an advocate for, aspects of the story that I thought needed to be shared, and to be able to help just be another voice in the room, to be able to make it as great as I imagined it could be or would be.
Oh, very nice. And how about you, Donna?
So similar, I saw the post on Audrey's calling all Springsteen fans, and I texted her and I said, "Is this legit?" And she said, "Yes." And I found Dave, emailed him some questions, which he answered, and I got to hear his vision for this. And I thought, finally, somebody's making a movie about us.
Yeah.
About us, about the East Street Nation. Did they not see the millions of people who love him? Finally, somebody's making a movie about us, about this phenomenon of Bruce Springsteen and the East Street Nation, the tramps like us. And I scrolled all the way down to the bottom of the Kickstarter page to see all the different levels of contributions. And I went all the way down to the bottom, and I showed my husband. I said, "I'm doing that, the executive producer level." And he's not a Springsteen fan. And he said,
Right.
he looked at it and he said, "You should definitely do that. Definitely." And it's been great. Now, I went into it. Now, my background is in publishing. I was a writer and an editor. And I thought, maybe at the least, I'm not a filmmaker. My background is in, as I said, in print publishing, but there's an ideal trajectory for a narrative that
Yeah.
no matter what medium you're using. And I thought, maybe he's an experienced filmmaker. He probably wouldn't need that, just in case he needs another pair of eyes or another viewpoint on it. And Dave has used all of us for that. We've seen different iterations of the movie. And we've had several producers meetings every 2 or 3 weeks where he shows us. At first, he was showing us clips, like 10-minute clips of it. And then he showed us a 2-hour and 45-minute version of the film, to which we all said, "It's great. It's too long."
Yeah.
It's great. It's too long. To which he agreed. And so now it's down to 2 minutes to 2 hours. But it's gotten better, and by tightening as he's done, it's actually, it moves swifter. The story, the trajectory, the narrative arc is there, and it's really artfully done, and it's really well done. So it's been great to get to know the other producers and to hear all their different reasons for getting involved with this. But Dave he was right from the very beginning. He said, "I'm going to use you guys." And everyone has their own skills that they bring. For example, one of the producers used to be she's retired now, but she worked for the New Jersey Symphony, and she has a lot of connections with the nonprofit world in Jersey. And she's one of the ones who made the connection to the Springsteen archives for us.
Oh,
and
wow.
Yeah, so she made that connection with Dave and Eileen Chapman, so Dave got on Eileen's radar. And another producer is a musician herself, involved with the Asbury Institute, so she knew a lot of musicians. So some of them contributed music to the film. It takes a village. He's really gathered this group of people who are really helping him. But he's driving the bus, and he's doing a phenomenal job. He's a great filmmaker. There's been times when I've said, maybe you don't, and then he explains why it is the way it is. I'm like, oh, okay, now I get it. Now I understand.
Rick, I'm curious, what was your career? You did mention you're retired earlier.
Yeah, I've been retired for 9 years. When I retired, I was the CEO of a publicly traded hotel REIT.
Okay.
If you know what a REIT is.
No, I do not.
I had some stuff before that. It's basically a tax vehicle.
Okay.
So we would own the hotels, and we would license with the Hiltons and the Marriotts and Fairmonts of the world.
Okay.
So we had hotels across the country. And
what I find fascinating is, I'm not very entertainment savvy, but big fan of TVs and movies, and listen to a lot of podcasts. And you'll hear different things. You'll see on a TV show, the star will have an executive producer role. And often that's just a way to give them extra money or to give them extra things, and they aren't necessarily working. And I see Will nodding his head. But what I find interesting is you, because I would have thought, okay, that's what this is. It's a nice, pretty title to thank you for your donation. But instead, he actually had you guys roll up your sleeves and was able to look at, oh, this is your skill set. I can use you to do this. This is your talent. I can use you that. I think that's fascinating. I'll stick with you, Rick. Did you want to be hands dirty, so to speak, on the film when you signed up?
Oh, absolutely. And I've also always had a fascination with film as well. At
Yeah.
one point, before I got into the hotel business, I wrote, produced, and directed a film. I wrote another script, and I wrote a book. And so I've always been fascinated with it, and knew this much.
Yeah.
Will knows a lot. I knew a little bit. And so I wanted to be as helpful as I could possibly be.
Yeah.
And yeah, as far as the difference between a typical executive producer title and this, I don't think any of us look, I'll speak for myself. I didn't look at it this way. This was so near and dear to my heart that I wanted to be absolutely as involved as he would let me.
Yeah.
At one point, I just didn't want to annoy him.
Yeah. Yeah, Donna, same question.
I'm sorry, repeat the question.
Yeah, you wanted to do this to get your hands dirty.
I did. And I've been helping him with the public relations for it. So I wrote the press release that the archives has posted, and we've gotten some coverage on the premiere coming up. And I've been reaching out to some media outlets to see if they want to come to the premiere. We do have some coming to the premiere. And then afterwards, how we're going to continue to keep that ball rolling. Ultimately, we would love to see it widely distributed, the
Sure.
film. And part of my job as an EP is to help Dave with that goal and to lend as much support as I can for that. Yeah.
And so, Will, with your background, right, it's chocolate and peanut butter, right? Oh, I have this background. I adore Bruce Springsteen. Oh, let me put two of my favorite things together, correct?
Exactly that. It's funny because you brought up the thing about the executive producer title sometimes with
Yeah.
celebrities and whatnot. And sometimes, as you were saying, it's very much just like a token title and another revenue source for them because they get paid for being a producer as well. But then you have other people who have that same title who are on shows or films, and they're like the 800-pound gorilla. They just really, Tom Cruise is executive producer of his movies, but that's not like an empty title. Like every element of that, he's intimately on top of. But it's interesting because with Dave's he's like a great human being. He's like a really sweet person, and he's just so good at what he does, and he's so passionate. But there are times when, like, I'll be honest, and I was honest with him. There are things, if like something didn't hit right for me or didn't resonate or something that I thought wasn't getting what I would consider the attention I wanted it to, or the proper attention I thought it deserved, or other elements were getting more than personally I thought that time could be spent better in other things. Dave, he's great because he's a great collaborator, but he's the captain, like they're saying. He's the captain of the ship because he'll listen and you can discuss it. And then you make a point to him that he agrees with, then, things might change. But if not, he stands by it. And he says, look, I understand where you're coming from, but this is why I made that choice. And this is why, in my opinion, it needs to be that way. And I have tremendous respect for that because coming into it, it's his project. And it was his blood, sweat, and tears that really pulled everything together. He's just an amazingly resourceful individual and filmmaker.
So one of my favorite statements from Aaron Sorkin is, and he wrote this for Sports Night, and the line is, if you're dumb, you surround yourself with smart people. If you're smart, you surround yourself with smart people who disagree with you. And anytime I start a new job, I tell that to my team. and I go, I want to hear if you think I'm making a mistake or if you don't agree with what I'm doing.
Right.
And I promise
Yeah.
to listen. I may not change my mind
Yeah.
because I may know something you don't know or something, but I do not need to be surrounded by yes people.
No.
Yeah.
Some people, it's very important to them that they always they feel within themselves and they be perceived as the smartest one in the room.
Yeah.
I think it gives you much more strength in whatever task you're doing to have people who are actually smarter around you.
Yes.
You can be savant and brilliant about whatever it is that you're tackling, but to have people who are equally smart and who are willing to test you or to challenge you, that only makes for a better product.
I remember an interview, I can't remember which showrunner now, but and he was talking about it. He said, you take the notes, and he says, I hear a lot of people like, oh, I wish the network just wouldn't just leave me alone. Let me create my show. And he said, no, because sometimes they're asking a question, they're not getting it. And therefore the audience isn't going to get it. So I need to listen to that. I thought just for a minute, give you guys shared your wonderful story. I thought I'd share mine. So I'm in a car driving to Louisiana to see my mom. My mom was in a nursing home and she had a stroke and was not doing well. And I was going down and he had texted me earlier and said, hey, I want to do this. And I'd given him my number. And so he called me. And so we talked and I asked similar things. What kind of movie are you talking about? What do you mean? And when I said, I think this sounds great. I think the more Bruce stuff, the better. But then I'm your core audience. I do a Springsteen podcast. So I want this. I said, how can I help? And he said, I don't know yet. I said, let's get you on the podcast. I said, let's get you. And he's been nice enough to be on there all the time. Like you guys, I hated to bug him, right? And so I just left it open. When you're ready to talk, just call me and we'll do an update. We'll do whatever. And we talked a couple weeks ago, the talk about the premiere and everything. And so after we were recording, he goes, do you want to see the film? And I said, wow, I don't know. I said, part of me wants to wait, right, and see it the first time with all the crowd. I said, so I think I'm going to pass for now, but I withhold the option. If I change my mind, I can reach out to you. So you guys have seen the different versions. And I'm going to start with you, Donna, where, so could you tell early the story he wanted to tell?
Oh, yeah, definitely. You could definitely see it. Yeah. So the story is, in some ways, it's in segments,
Yeah.
although it's seamless. The segues between them is seamless. But he talks in the movie. He talks. We talk.
Yeah.
He encourages us to talk, and he tells the story of the early years, and then he talks about how Springsteen has impacted people's lives. I told my story. Rick and Will told their stories. It's 243 people gave their testimony for this, and all of them are in the film in some way or another. Some more than others. Some only have a few sound bites. Some have slightly longer. And he talks about the internet and MTV and how people reacted to that. The story talks about all the philanthropic groups that have grown out of Bruce and and the inspiration of his lyrics and his music, the community that's been built, how people are passing on the legacy to their children for love of Bruce. And in between, the B-roll in between is clips from various concerts or pictures of people enjoying the concert, dancing. And it moves swiftly. It covers a lot of territory. It's truly Bruce's legacy. And while we don't know yet if Bruce has heard about the film we assume that he knows because several people around him know about it. The premiere is going to be a charitable for Teach Rock, for Stevie Van Dant's Teach Rock, and for Light of Day, which is a charitable organization that's close to the Springsteen camp. So we assume he's heard about it, but we watched this film, and this truly is Bruce's legacy. This is how he has impacted people at the core level, like we were just talking about, at your core level. And it's beautifully told, and it's told by us, by the fans. It's not told by academics, it's not told by music industry people, it's not told by Bruce's people, by his PR people, it's told by us, the fans. And that's what's profoundly brilliant to me about the film. Now, Dave doesn't want us to get too excited about it. He's like, no, I just want people to see it first. Yeah. Don't, but I'm like, I'm doing the PR for the film, so I'm going to tell people it's brilliant, because it is.
Yeah. Will, how about you? As you're seeing this journey, thoughts on that, maybe?
In agreement with Donna. Another thing about when Dave was first talking about this, and when he first wrote what he was planning on doing, and he's, I'm going to interview anybody who wants to talk to me about Bruce and the impact he's had on their life. And every one of those people will end up in the film. And I'm like doing the mental math, and I'm like, how does that work? But it works like seamlessly. And those moments, he gets people are very profoundly truthful, and the conversations, many of them are like really intimate. Yeah. Really intimate and heartfelt. It's not just what really excited me about this project. It's more than just like a fan film. It's more than just, oh, we love Elvis and he's the most, or the Beatles or whatever, but people have really, like, the trajectory of people's lives, unbeknownst to this human being, have been altered by their art, by his art. Yeah. And it's remarkable. It really, truly is. And this film it's all heart. And that's, I know we're supposed to downplay it, like Donna said, and I think Dave wants to promise silver and deliver gold.
Under promise and over deliver. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm really proud to have been even just a small part of it, along with the rest of the team. And it's just to give people an opportunity to talk about publicly something that has meant so much to them. Yeah. It's amazing. It really is. And that I think is, to me, that's like the legacy. Like, I think I can't imagine that as a human being, he really, truly has like the real sense of that yet. But like, when he sees this film, I think he will.
And I'm going to get you in a minute, Rick. And I've told the story a long time, so I won't go into the long story, but I ended up going down to Austin for the book signing. And I stood in line and got there, I had a little MP3 player with a note saying, these are not songs, these are episodes of my podcast, and put it in the little box. And I practiced all the way down from Dallas to Austin. I was unemployed for 9 months last year. I listened to Better Days and Land of Hope and Dreams every day to keep my spirits up. I was unemployed for 9 months last year. I listened to Better Days and Land of Hope and Dreams every day to keep my spirit up. And so they go, next. I go there, taking my picture, shaking his hand, and I tell him that. And I don't know if he heard me, but I've said a million times, I needed to say it more than I needed him to hear it. And I feel like this film is us saying that to him. One of the things that I talk about this podcast when I'm promoting it for people to come in that are not Springsteen fans, I said, music is what helps us celebrate. It helps us mourn. We go through marriages, deaths, birthdays, anniversaries, job losses, and that music, he has been a good companion for us. And I love that idea. Rick, how about you?
Donna and Will covered quite a bit.
That's
And
unfortunately, that's why I rotate who goes first
right.
for that very reason.
I will say this, the special thing, and I agree with Will, I think this will move Bruce when he sees it. And I think it's important that he see it, and he will at some point. But the special thing for me was I knew my story. Little did I know there were so many of us. I'm in Spring Nuts. I've been in Bruce Land and other things, and I know there's a lot of people who love Bruce, but I didn't have any inkling how many there were that were truly altered by him like I was. And that was just glorious to hear
Yeah.
as we went through the process, and very special. And Dave's going to kill us all, but yeah.
Like when people ask me about the podcast, I give an example. Sarah Gregory was on last year, and if you haven't heard the episode, I recommend you listening to it. But in short, her grandmother had been killed by a friend of the family, and it put her in a downward spiral and a lot of self-medication and drugs and alcohol and just really some bad choices. And she got sober, she got her life straight, and she told her sober coach, her sponsor, but I'll never forgive that guy. I won't do that. I won't. And she's driving home and she hears Letter to You. And she gets to her house and she starts writing a letter to the man who killed her grandmother. And she sends the letter to him. We'll skip some of the details because I want you to hear her tell it. She ended up being at the prison when he was executed, looking at him, saying, I love you and I forgive you. And
Wow.
and his family had disowned him. And when she forgave him, his family said, if you can forgive him, we can. And so he was able to connect with his family. And now then she's going to change her life fighting against capital punishment. Don't tell me
Wow.
it's just a pop song.
Yeah.
Don't tell me
Wow.
it's
Wow.
and I know there's stories in this film we're going to hear that's like that, isn't there?
Yeah. There's
Yeah,
lots of them.
Yeah,
There's
that's
lots
right.
of them. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another cool thing about that is that I don't know if this is publicly known or if it's really been discussed.
Yeah.
But the film can only be as long as the film can be. And 246 people sat down with Dave for anywhere from probably 20 minutes to an hour each.
Yeah.
And all that can't be in the film, representative pieces. But once everything is said and done and the film is complete, all of the elements, every interview in its entirety that people sat down for and that Dave recorded are going to be entered into the collection of the archive. So it's awesome that for scholars in the future, there are some, for every one story that Dave focused on, there's probably dozens of others that are equally compelling and meaningful that for whatever reason couldn't be the one at that point.
Yeah.
So that's super cool about that.
Yeah, I do. I think it is. God, guys, this has been so much fun. I feel like we could just keep talking and talking. So, Rick, any final thoughts?
Still heartbroken that I can't make the premiere.
Yes.
No, I just want to thank you, Jesse. Really had a good time and love what you do. And I am very anxious for the second screening.
Yes, absolutely.
Whenever that comes, because I will be there no matter what I have to do.
Are you planning to try to watch it from Ireland?
I will. It'll be, I think, midnight there when it starts. And the guy, the Truman with me is just going to have to bear with it.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. All right. Will, how about you? Final thoughts?
Final thoughts. That it's been a privilege and an honor to be able to be a part of what I feel is a really important project, and that Bruce and his family and his descendants will look back and they'll be able to see beyond the album sales, beyond the tickets to concerts sold, They'll see how meaningful his body of work and also his own behaviors have been over the years, and his own courage in standing up for what he believes in and sharing his own personal difficulties and challenges with the world, and giving people the opportunity to talk about their own challenges. And so for me, that to me is the most exciting thing about it.
Nice. And Donna?
I'm not sure I can add anything to that. Will and Rick, that's very much how I feel too. We're happy to the film is, once people see it, I think they'll see that they are not alone, that there's lots of people who feel about this artist the way we do, and who his work, his writing, primarily his lyrics, have really had profound impact on people's lives. I tell the story in the film, the line from from Jungle Land rather, and the poets down here don't write nothing at all. They just stand back and let it all be. And that changed my life. I don't mean to sound dramatic, but it changed my life. It inspired me to go to journalism school and become a writer and an editor. And my life trajectory up until that point, as I said, I come from a background where creative professions were frowned upon. You were supposed to do something else with your life and not pursue something creative like that. And he showed me the way. Bruce showed me the way, and it profoundly changed my life. And I knew that other people felt that way about him, but I didn't realize how many people were, look upon this artist at this time in our human history and said, he is the one who showed me the way, or was the adult speaking to me when I needed an adult in the room, or who inspired me, or who motivated me, or who, it's just, to hear it strung together like that in a film, it's profound and moving. And I'm just happy to be part of this project. Dave has a great vision. He's following it. And I thank you, Jesse, for letting us talk about it.
No, I've loved it.
Yeah, thank
All
you,
right.
Jesse.
Yeah, hang tight. I'm going to do a little business and then we'll wrap it up. I just want to thank you guys for spending time with me today, sharing in the music and the memories that makes this journey so special. So listeners, if Bruce has touched your life in some way, I'd be honored to help you tell that story. Your voice matters, your experience matters, and this podcast is here because of fans like you. So leave a review, drop me a note, and maybe together we'll walk in the sun in a future episode. Until then, be safe, be kind, keep the fire burning, and remember, this train carries saints and sinners, losers and winners. And there's always room here for your Springsteen story. Never stop believing in the magic of music. Thanks. Guys, appreciate it. And let's talk soon. And we're out.